We all want more freedom, and a lot of us work hard now in the hope we'll feel free later. What if there was another way? A way to feel happier, more free, and confident to get better results right now. Welcome to Your Freedom Unlimited, where we share practical stories and strategies to help you show up authentically, drop your fears, and take inspired action on what matters most to you. I'm your host, Jen Ramsey. As a coach with a love for metaphysics, science, spirituality, and strategies that get results, I'll help you step away from self-doubt and create a powerful new story for your life, business, or career. Join me. Welcome to this week's episode of Your Freedom Unlimited with me, Jen Ramsey. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate that you choose to share some of your precious time with me here on this podcast. So this week, I want to share with you how choosing your frequency can change your experience of your daily life, as well as help you change your overall life for the better. I know that sounds like a big call, but let me tell you, I know it to be true. As part of this, I want to share with you some of the master frequencies that I feel will make all of the difference. So let's start at the beginning. What do I mean when I'm talking about frequencies? Well, I'm talking about the emotion or the emotional frequency that we hold in relation to any particular situation. The fact is, we live in a feeling reality. We take our world in via how we feel. So, in this moment right now, how are you feeling? Are you in tune with what's going on in your body? What is your frequency right now as you're listening to me on this podcast? That's an example of understanding your frequency in the moment. The fact is that we hold frequencies with regard to overall situations and circumstances and experiences in our lives. For example, how we feel about our business or our work or our relationships or our children. These frequencies are bound up in the stories that we then tell ourselves about our lives. And if you want to know more about how to understand the power of the stories that you tell yourself, go back and listen to some of my previous episodes, in particular episode 11, 13, and 15. In those episodes, I talk about why the stories that we tell ourselves are so important. And in episode 13 and 15, I share how to change those stories. So some of the work that I do with people is to help them understand how their frequency affects everything. Then I share with them how to look specifically at the frequency code they are holding about themselves, a particular relationship, place, or a situation. So what is your frequency code? Well, in my worldview, these frequency codes are the building blocks of our world. And when you start to really understand them and understand perhaps the frequency codes that you're carrying that aren't serving you, you can start to create an entirely new code that will make all the difference to your relationships, your health, your business, your career, and your finances. There is a bit to unraveling your frequency code, but today I'd just like to draw your attention to the importance of understanding the frequencies that you are holding in any given moment. As I said earlier, the frequencies are all about our emotions, and the fact is that there is a wide range of frequencies or emotions we can hold in any given moment. The key for us is to become more aware of where your frequency is at in any moment. I have to say, I remember when I was not so aware of the fact that I could actually be aware of my frequency, let alone choose my frequency. I felt for a lot of the time, I felt like I was a boat being thrown about on the ocean. Whatever circumstances came up, then decided how my frequency would be. So to use my analogy, if it was a calm, sunny day on the ocean, meaning if my outside circumstances were good, then I would feel good. But if it was a stormy, windy day where things were not going so well, say at work or at home, then I might not feel so good. What's quite funny is that yesterday, as I was preparing for this podcast, it was extremely windy outside. It was blowing a gale. So this stormy ocean image really had a lot of power for me yesterday. But the fact is, what I'm talking about here is how I would let outside circumstances impact how I felt. I was really dependent on anyone or situation that I came into contact with. So for example, if I was chatting with a friend, or if I perhaps was talking with a client and maybe got some not so great news from then those outside things would impact me. I was allowing my own emotional frequency to be impacted by what was going on outside me, as opposed to tuning in to what was going on inside of me and managing that emotion or that frequency. The big turnaround came for me when I realized that once I started thinking more consciously about what frequency I was holding, then I could actually change my response to a very difficult situation or a piece of bad news. And when I tuned in, it meant that I could also consciously change my overall outlook on that day. And this is when it gets really fun, when you start to tune in and really start to choose how you want your day to be. You can really call in what you specifically want and how you want to feel. So this was really huge for me because suddenly I was really coming home to myself. I was really understanding who I was, and I was starting to choose how I wanted to respond to the world rather than being, buffeted about on that ocean of emotion by whatever was happening outside of me. And I have to say, this is a really, really incredible place to be when you find that you can actually start being intentional about your emotions and about choosing your perspective. And a key part of this is really starting to understand what I call the master frequencies. This is the vital piece. So today I want to focus on what I call the master frequencies for a happier, more connected, more confident, and more freedom-filled life. Because, as you know, that's what this podcast is all about. It's about you connecting with your freedom. And these master frequencies are where it is at. So why do I call them the master frequencies? Because what I've found is when you focus on these frequencies and really work consciously with them over quite a period of time, everything can really change. So every week for the next few weeks, I'd like to share a new master frequency with you. So what's our frequency today? Well, today I'd like to talk to you about calm neutrality. And this is a really, really powerful frequency. It works in any situation, in particular in really difficult situations. And interestingly, I'm really called to share with you how I used this frequency of calm neutrality in March of 2019 when my absolutely beautiful mother passed away. So this was a really, really difficult time in my life, probably the most difficult time in my life. Of course, I'd not experienced losing a parent before, and to say that it was dreadful is an absolute understatement. So Mum had been sick for many years with dementia, so it wasn't a big surprise when it came time for her to pass. But even though we'd been preparing, and as she'd had dementia for really 20 years and had been quite unwell for the last 5, it was still something that you can never really prepare yourself for. And I know any of you listening who have lost a parent or a very close loved one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. What was interesting though was the fact that the way Mum chose to transition was actually very beautiful. She transitioned with grace and beauty just as much as she had grace and beauty in her life. That was how she transitioned. So she'd had the dementia, but at this time in March 2019, she had a stroke and she went into a coma. And that coma lasted for 11 days, which is actually an extremely long time. It's almost unheard of. But I believe she stayed with us that long so that our whole family could gather together. And this was important because one of my brothers was overseas for work at the time and another lives in Southern Australia. So it was really important for them to get home to see Mum before she transitioned. What was also incredible during that time was that I had been really working with this concept of frequency vibration for a good couple of years. So I had enough presence to realize that I could really choose. I had 2 ways to approach Mum's passing. I could go into it becoming very upset and sad, or I could choose a very different perspective. So I chose the different perspective. I really made a decision to choose to be there for her as much as I could, and for my father and my sister and the rest of my family. So what that meant for me was that instead of taking that very traditional story of getting quite upset and emotional over a long period of time, I really chose to remain in this frequency of calm, neutrality, and of course love as much as possible. And there's no doubt about it. Of course, we had some dreadfully sad moments in the time of Mum's transition. But I have to say, choosing that different approach, to go through that approach, consciously choosing how I was going to navigate that, was incredibly powerful. So what did staying in that frequency of calm mean for me? What did it do for me? Well, firstly, it meant that I wasn't in the depths of despair the whole time, and I didn't exhaust myself. I mean, it was an 11-day period that she was in that coma. It was a very long time. So I physically had more energy to be present and to have the discussions and to make those very difficult decisions that, of course, we needed to make along the way. More importantly, though, it meant that I could be there to really experience some very precious and loving moments with my mother. She, of course, was in a coma, but I could still be present with her. And this is something she taught me throughout her journey with dementia. She really taught me how to be present. I'd heard about it for years and really subscribed to it as an idea, as I got into yoga and looking at different spiritual philosophies, this notion of being present in the moment. But Mum really taught me this. She taught me how to get back right into the moment, because really, with her dementia, that was all we really had, was those moments together. So anyway, here we were in the situation, in the facility, and I was able to have some more of these very precious and loving moments with my mother. I could stroke her brow and I could hold her hand lovingly, and it was just so beautiful to have those moments with her rather than being carried away by my emotion. And we did get a lot of great support from the aged care facility where Mum was at. And let me tell you, there are a lot of bad stories about aged care facilities, but where Mum was at, it was absolutely beautiful place. They were very thoughtful, and Mum had been a very strong and beautiful and devout Christian. So they brought in a CD of hymns for us to play, and also a beautiful aromatherapy diffuser, so that we could have a beautiful atmosphere for her in this time. And it was just a case of everything clicking into place, because my home was an hour and a half away, and it wasn't like I could go home to get things like that. I'd gone in a rush to see her and didn't really have a lot of things with me. So one of the other things that I was able to do in those precious moments and those precious times with my mum was that I was able to read for her. I'm getting a bit emotional. But one of my favourite memories as a child was my mum reading to me. So of course, as in a coma, she couldn't speak, but I could still choose to have a dialogue with her through some of the stories that I knew she loved from the Bible. So I read to her a lot, and I could do those things and spend those precious moments with her because I chose to be in this calm, loving, and neutral frequency. The other benefit of choosing that frequency in that time was that I was able to be there properly for my father and my sister and the rest of my family. Rather than them being distracted by me, being upset or inconsolable, I was able to really be there for them, and particularly my beautiful dad. He is, without doubt, one of the most incredible men that I know, and he had cared for my mum almost single-handedly for the last 15 years. Yes, we had support coming into the home and I was there every week, but he was the one shouldering the burdens 24/7. But the interesting thing is he didn't ever see it that way. He just fell more and more and more in love with my mum. So of course, he needed quite a bit of support in that time of her transition. So the opportunity to choose my frequency in that moment was really profound, because it meant that I could be there for him and he could get what he needed from me. So I know that was a bit of an emotional story to share with you, but for me, it was the one that came up to share in this moment with you and to show you how choosing your frequency will make all the difference. So that is our master frequency for this week, to be in calm, loving neutrality. This is about being present in the moment, because when we're present, we are available to what is going on, and it is such a profound place to be. And this one is a very powerful place to be because it does help you start to step into that place of responding rather than reacting and feeling like you're being bobbing and buffeted around on the ocean of your emotions. So this is just one of the key master frequencies that I want to share with you, and I'll be sharing more with you in future weeks. It really is an incredible way to live your life when you suddenly understand the power of all of this. So in sharing this with you today, I want to encourage you to think about how you are operating in your daily life and what choices you might be making in terms of your overall emotions. Perhaps you could think about how you could perhaps bring some more calm to a situation that might ordinarily feel very difficult or uncomfortable for you. If you did that, what opportunities could it open up for you? Perhaps by bringing some calm in, could you bring some more beauty and maybe some more joy into your life by choosing this perspective? I am eternally grateful for those last 11 days with my mum, and I'm grateful to myself that I made that choice to be in that calm, loving neutrality as we had some incredibly beautiful moments together. So I really want to hand this over to you now and to open the door to you to think about how you could perhaps make some use of this master frequency of calm, loving neutrality in your life. And as ever, if you're finding this is something you want to dig into or you'd like to have some help to work out what's going on, you can contact me for a discovery call to chat about some coaching and what your needs might be. To do that, all you need to do is to book your discovery call at jenramsey.com/discovery. That's jenramsey.com/discovery. And if you'd like some free coaching, listen in. If you're listening in August or September 2020, you can enter my competition to win a 90-minute breakthrough session with me, where we can really focus on how you can start to use these master frequencies in your life, or if you'd like help with anything else, like releasing old stories and creating new ones. That session is yours and it's up for grabs. To get your chance to win, all you need to do is to subscribe and rate and review Your Freedom Unlimited on Apple Podcasts. So to enter the competition, you just need to visit jenramsey.com/win. If you've already subscribed, rated and reviewed the podcast without using that link, all you need to do is just email me proof that you've done it at hello@jenramsey.com. So thank you so much again for joining me today and for your time. Please stay tuned in for my episode next week, where I'll be sharing more with you on these master frequencies and giving you some more insight on how vital they are to living your new story. I'll look forward to sharing some time with you again soon. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Your Freedom Unlimited. If you like this show, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review Your Freedom Unlimited on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can reach me directly at jenramsey.com. Thanks for listening.